Alright, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Euro Truck Simulator 2. This is A Plant 94. Hope you're all having a wonderful morning or day wherever you are. So today's route I'm driving, actually I'll just show you really quickly. It's in virtual France. We've just gotten outside of Nantes, and we're going to be heading down along this road until we hit La Rochelle, and then we're going to keep going down until we hit Bordeaux. We're going to take a little bit of a detour just to discover Bordeaux, and then we're going to head all the way down through Toulouse, stop there, and then we'll get up to Montpellier, and then eventually meet up to Marseille. This is, I'm not sure how long this journey will take, but I hope that it will be a fairly swift one. Oh, hello little Dave, welcome to the stream. I hope that you've been having a very wonderful morning. I was going to stream last night. Unfortunately, YouTube was giving me issues in terms of their dashboard live system. It kept on giving me an error 500 message, so I eventually did some troubleshooting and I figured it out. But by the time I figured it out, it was like 10 p.m. and that's a little bit late for me to stream, so I decided to do a morning one instead for this morning. So here I am. It's not only a beautiful sunny day in virtual France, it is also a it is a very sunny day where I am as well. It rained a little bit last night, so thankfully a lot of the snow has melted away, especially off the roads. But I'm actually seeing a lot of green grass where I'm living today, which is a big miracle because I'm a big fan of snow. I mean, it's nice to look at and stuff, but especially when it gets to like the colder months and like the rain can like freeze over and like the snow makes it very deceptive. Like I've slipped on ice before, especially in winter time. So it's not the most pleasant thing to do. So I welcome the green grass. I may be Canadian, but I don't have to necessarily like the snow. I can tolerate it, but that's about it. So yeah, it's cold and rainy here, about 2 degrees. Yeah, I don't know what the actual weather is for me. I didn't bother looking at the temperature this morning, but I'm pretty sure it's mild. I know that it was above 0 last night. When it rained, so it's probably still a bit chilly. Like I wouldn't go outside in like a t-shirt and shorts. You know, it's not Florida, but I'd go in a relatively dressed thing. I'm lagging a bit, and I don't know why. Hold on. I'm pull over to the side of the road. Let the sort of faculties. Sometimes all I gotta do is let it render for a minute. Load itself back in. Let's try that again. Hopefully I don't have too many leg spikes today, because that is just a pain to deal with. I always hate these toll booths because you have to like aim directly into their lanes. Like they don't have like open systems. Like I get toll booths, but like they're so dumb. It is in this game. I mean, in real life, they make sense because, like, you have to pay to maintain the bridges, especially for heavy trucks like the one I'm driving. Okay. I just changed camera views, and it's really not too bad. I mean, I have to put the graphic settings all the way down to the bottom because, like, my laptop is not a gaming laptop. It's a 5-year-old machine that works. It's a bit slow sometimes, depending on what you're running. But I mean, it runs this program most of the time well. It's also because I'm streaming as well. So that tends to bring down the frames per second. Police car pulling people over. I always find it entertaining, and I don't know if this is a bad thing or not, but like I'm always entertained when I'm like seeing people pulled over because they're pulling like some idiot move on the highway, whether they're like speeding or like doing some stupid thing. Like there's this one time I was in a traffic jam on the highway. This was like years and years and years ago, and we were returning home from like Toronto, I lived in the GTA at one point, so I was we were returning home at one point, and it was literally just like traffic backed up for like miles. It was ridiculous. So much so to the point where there were cars actually driving like on the shoulder, like on the soft shoulder, like where I'm driving like right now. This is the soft shoulder, and you're not supposed to drive here for like obvious reasons, because it's like an emergency pullover lane or like whatever. It's not an actual driving lane, but people were driving in that lane, and it was the most bizarre thing ever, because people are like literally driving into like the grass to try and get around because they're impatient. So much so to the point that the driver of the car that I was in actually pulled into the soft shoulder lane but drove the same speed as like everybody else, so that we would try and prevent people from doing that. I mean, it mostly worked. I think there's only one exception with this like really stubborn Jeep driver just went right through and like went around us, and it was just like, I don't know why this person is so desperate to get where they're going. Like, unless if it was like an ambulance or something, that I can understand, but like, this is a normal driver. You know, they have to wait like the rest of us. And it was just the most bizarre thing, like, I don't know, some people on the roads can be really stupid. And I mean, like, I've seen some stupid drivers who like don't use their turn signals. That's quite common around like Quebec and stuff. But I mean, I don't know. It's just one of those strange things. Now I'm looking at my stream feed, and I don't know how smooth it actually is. Let me just... It's looking very choppy on your end. And I mean, like, I haven't played around with the actual settings. It shouldn't be choppy. Give me a moment. I'm going to let the stream catch itself up. I'll look at the world map briefly to see how far I've gotten in the meantime. So we started off there, where my mouse is the number 2 symbol, and we went all down here. So that's not too bad. And we're here now. I'm just trying to see the stream is, I don't know, is it really choppy for you guys? Because for me it's extremely choppy. What's my quality at anyway? I'm at 144. Let's try and bring it up to 360, see if that does. I should probably move my mouse around to see if it actually is laggy instead of you just staring at the screen. So for me it's pretty smooth, at least from my... Yeah, it was running fine. Okay. Maybe I'm just imagining things. Yeah, see, from my end it looks really choppy. That's really bizarre. I don't know. As long as you guys can hear me and relatively see most of the gameplay, then I guess that's okay. Actually, let me just duck out for 2 seconds, because I do have other stuff running in my background. I'm just going to take 2 seconds. Yeah, I do have other stuff running in the background that I shouldn't, so I'm going to close that really quickly. Close that down. Close that down. And I can close that down without having to worry about the stream. Back onto that. Oh, not back onto that. I need to press that button. Mixing up my buttons here. Just making sure that it's actually running again. I always hate the delay on this thing, because I'm like trying to watch my screen, but it's still like taking time. There we go. Okay, that looks like it's running smooth on my end. Okay, so yeah, I was running multiple tabs in Microsoft Edge as well as the game, and my computer doesn't like it when you run multiple things at the same time. I mean, I can do it, but like, it just can get problematic, so that's why I needed to do that. So we're back on the road. I actually love driving through virtual France. It's quite relaxing. I also enjoy driving through Italy because there's a lot of vineyards and stuff. And I mean, to be honest, like I find there are plenty of spots, especially in Canada and America, there are some very lovely touring spots for like driving and stuff. But I don't know, Europe has this like really unique charm. It is getting very dark in this game, so I'm going to turn on my driving lights. Thankfully, I turned off the ticketing system because I was just getting annoyed by like getting a bunch of like speed tickets, because like I drive very fast in this game, and I sometimes don't turn on the lights at the wrong time, and sometimes I drive on the wrong side of the road. So I don't know. Yeah, I just turned it off because that's just being a hassle. I mean, it wasn't costing me a lot of money per se, because like I have like 166,000 euros in this game account, so it's like doing fairly well. And I tend to be a mostly safe driver. There is the occasion, I don't know if it was last two streams ago or 3 streams ago or something, I was driving the truck and I must have clipped something on the road. I don't even know what I was clipping. I clipped something on the road, and basically I just turned my truck completely on its side and I had to tow myself, and it was so humiliating because I'm like, I couldn't even turn it over. Like, it was literally just stuck on its side. Like, it flipped. And I'm like, oh geez, what am I doing with my life? There we go, we've discovered La Rochelle. I've never been to La Rochelle. I've been to Toulouse, and I've been to Bordeaux briefly. I say briefly, it was like 2 seconds because we were on a train to Paris. I just stopped in Bordeaux. But I have gone to Toulouse, not for long though, it was only like a few minutes, because I was transferring from a bus to a train station. Ignoring the red light. Never ignore the red light. Oh, it doesn't matter which direction I take at this point, it'll just loop me back around. I'm discovering like all the question marks, because like the question marks are either recruiting agencies or truck dealerships. And I want to make sure that I'm having like the biggest outreach for my my truck purchasing abilities. So yeah, that's why I'm like stopping in all these different towns and stuff, because like I want to make sure that I discover, like the more places I discover, I can order different trucks, hire different people, and essentially do bigger jobs, because like I can start in La Rochelle now if I wanted to, and go anywhere else in Europe that has jobs. So like the more places I discover, the more job opportunities that I can have. Ooh, that was a bad crash. That was really bad. Oh, and I damaged the goods. Oh dear. You see, I always hate these turning circle things, because like you end up really crashing sometimes. Yeah, you're right, car, you're gonna wait for me. And actually, I'm gonna go repair my truck while I'm here, because that was humiliating. Shows off my driving skills. Honestly, I'm not much of a video gamer. Honestly, like I enjoy watching other people play, either because of their witty commentary or like, I don't know, they edit it in a certain way that makes it look enjoyable. Like I originally found this game through a guy called Nerdcubed, and I really enjoyed his work. Hello, Hugo Valida Frigola. I'm assuming that's how you pronounce your name. I'm not that great with the languages, I'm afraid. Yes, I would at my driving skills as well. You're not alone on that one. I'm just quickly pulling into this repair station so I can at least fix my truck, because like I don't have to pay for repairs, thankfully, for this one, because I'm doing a quick job, so it's not actually my truck. So I might as well get it repaired. If I didn't welcome you, welcome, Hugo. Welcome to this morning stream of mine. I was planning on streaming last night, but YouTube gave me problems, so I'm doing it now. I'm doing it this morning. I am going the other... I can't drive. I'm going the other way because I don't like that turning circle that I almost crashed into. Or not almost crashed into, I did crash into. Instead, I'm just going to go through this direction that I have. I mean, like, I discover more roads this way anyway. Because, like, once you drive on a road, you've, like, discovered it, in a sense. And so there's, like, a percentage of the map that shows how much has been explored. And it's really funny because, like, once you've explored all the roads and you add a new DLC, that number goes back down. Like, when I originally had this game, I just had the base game and the Going East expansion packs that included Poland, the Czech Republic, and Slovakia, I think. This I can watch most things that are like 360, like football and Fortnite make me dizzy. I'm trying to find a 13 amp fuse while watching you. Okay, well, thank you. I hope you find that 13 amp fuse. To be honest, I actually do enjoy streams like this, where like I can listen to the person talk and like we can do things. I just crashed into a sign. That I can do things at the same time, because like, yeah, I sort of agree with you. Like if I watch someone in like football or Fortnite or something that's like a lot of action, a lot of moving. Finding my old NES system, trying to fix it. Oh, okay, cool. I've never actually had an NES before. I think the earliest console I've ever had was an N64. And I had a Game Boy Advance. I didn't have a Game Boy Color, but I had Game Boy Color games. So yeah, I'm not I'm not quite cool enough that I've had an NES or a SNES. But I mean, I had an N64, so that was like the next best thing, I guess, at least in terms of generational and consoles. But yeah, I enjoy watching like driving streams, especially if it's like podcasty style, because there's not a lot of like action. Like, it's driving through virtual Europe. Like, there's not a lot to like do. I mean, unless if you like sightseeing, but like this game doesn't have a lot of sightseeing, if I remember correctly. Like, you don't go to like the Eiffel Tower, and you don't go to like you know, Westminster Palace or the cathedral in Barcelona. I mean, this thing doesn't even go to Spain. Like, you can't see the Leaning Tower of Pisa. I don't think you can see the like, you can see in the distance maybe, but like you can't see it in the actual game. Got my 1998 for my birthday. I was, how old was I in 1998? I was 4 in 1998. Oh, 1988. Oh, I wasn't even alive in 1988. My parents weren't even married in 1988. That's how far back that goes. Yeah, no, I'm a 2000s kid. I mean, I was 6 when it was 2000, so like, hypothetically, I was a 90s baby, but a 2000s kid. So like, I grew up in the era of like flip phones and like the original Xbox and like the tube TV. Like, I mean, we still had tube TVs back in the early 2000s until like flat screens became a regular thing. I still have my tube TVs at home. Like, where I'm staying right now, I'm back at home because of like because I'm on medical leave, and the TV I have at home is at least like 20 or 30 years old, probably 20. And it's like the giant tube TVs. We always called them the radiation kings because of how big like the internal mechanics were, and like, I didn't actually give off radiation, but like we just always made fun of it because it was like, if you watch like the old movies in like the 90s and the 80s with like giant computer screens that were like super thick and would take up half the desk. I still remember having that up until probably around 2007 or 2008 or possibly 2009. Like, I am one of those people that uses something until it doesn't work. So like, I will use like the older TV until it breaks, essentially. I think there's only like a few exceptions to the rule where I'll like get something new even if it's not broken. So like, actually I can't really think of any, because like even my phones, like I'd use them up until they died and then I just get new ones. Same thing with like, I guess clothes maybe be an exception, but I don't do a lot of clothes shopping. But yeah, I'm not quite that old to remember like 80s technology. Like, I didn't use like the Atari systems. I didn't use cassette tapes a lot. I used them like very minimally. I was the era of the CD. Back when like, oh, what was the name of that music store? It was like pink. It was like HMV or something. It was like 3 letters, and it was basically like a music store. And it was, I don't know if it's big in America, but it was like in Canada. I think it was HMV. I think. I remember when those were like a proper thing, and they sold like CDs and like movie posters and like music posters and that sort of thing. And I mean, I didn't go shopping there a lot either, because like, I grew up in the age of LimeWire. Yeah, HMV, that's what I thought it was. There was a few in like different malls that I've in cities that I've lived in. None where I am now, I don't think. I think the only like actual music store that we have is locally owned. and they sell like instruments and I think some vinyl records and maybe some cassettes and CDs, but like they're mostly an instrument store, so we don't really have like a music store in town other than the one that's locally owned. I just put on my other side mirror there because I forgot about it. I turned it off for a screenshot that I wanted to do for the stream yesterday, but then I didn't do it today. I hate driving in the dark so much, but I need to get to the thing, to my destination on time. I got 21. No, I'm not gonna risk resting. That'll be a bit too much. Yeah, there was like HMV was like between that and Blockbuster. I hear that there's still a Blockbuster open, I think in Alaska, just because of like how remote they are up there. Yeah, I remember having I think it was my parents' Blockbuster membership. I didn't even have one because I think I was too young at the time. And I remember renting Nintendo 64 games from Blockbuster. Like, I would actually rent like the full box with like the little cartridge, and I think I ended up renting Super Mario 64. And I must have rented it like a few times. Like I probably could have owned it if I wanted to, but like I didn't think about that at the time because like I was a kid, and I'm just like, okay, whatever. But yeah, I remember renting that from Blockbuster. Between that and like my parents would sometimes rent like VHS movies. And this was like just when DVD was coming out and like was becoming a thing. I mean, I think we ended up renting some DVDs from that place, and I think we ended up buying some too. And it was so Blockbuster really pissed me off because I actually had, in fact, I may still have old gift cards somewhere. Either that or I just got rid of them because they were just like worthless. I actually had, I think it was $20 in Blockbuster gift cards unused, and the stores were closing at this point, so like Blockbuster was being liquidated essentially, and so everything was on sale. So I went to Blockbuster with my gift cards, and I wanted to buy, I think it was like at the time I was into Glee, like that show about the high school kids singing songs. I had a Glee phase at one point because I was in like high school choir, and I thought that was like the coolest thing ever. Especially since the way that the songs I thought was pretty awesome, and so I wanted to buy them using my gift cards because like they have 20 or 25 bucks on them. Like I'm not going to throw away perfectly good money, so I was going to use them. And the store person's like, oh, we're not accepting Blockbuster gift cards. I'm like, well, I'm sorry, what the F do you expect me to do with this piece of plastic that has legitimate money put onto it? And like I've been holding on to these cards for like ages because I didn't normally go to Blockbuster in my later years before it closed, but like I wanted to get rid of the cards. I was like, well, what the hell am I supposed to do with these? You know, it's not like I'm gonna call up, you know, corporate and ask for my $20 back. Like that's not a lot of money. You know, like if it was like $100, maybe I'd be more into it. But it was like, I don't remember how much. It was like 15 or 20 bucks. I don't remember how much it was. But I was so pissed off. I'm like, excuse me, this is perfectly legal tender. It takes you like 2 seconds. Like, take the gift cards, god damn it. So yeah, I ended up losing out on, and I mean, it wasn't even my money, it was a gift, so I felt bad for the person, for like whoever gave it to me. It's like this literally just a piece of plastic. I don't even know if I kept the cards. I might have just threw them away, honestly, at this point. I don't even know. I buried them in a box, never to be found again, because like that would be really curious if like Canadian Blockbuster gift cards could be accepted in Alaska. I don't even know if that's a thing, because like if it was, that'd be totally like, I'm going to Alaska to go buy stuff at Blockbuster. No, I don't even know anymore. But yeah, I was so pissed off, like, and I mean, like, I knew it wasn't the clerk's fault, or maybe it was the clerk's fault and she was just lazy or something, but like, I don't know. I was not impressed. I was so pissed off. I'm like, I want to use these gift cards because they're like useless to me now. And she wouldn't take them, so I'm like, well, you know, I could have bought stuff and gave you a little bit of money, but no. I'm gonna take my non-existent money and not spend it anywhere else. I must have buried the cards at this point, because I'm just like, I have no point, there's no use for them, they're defunct. Unless a Blockbuster comes back and says we're gonna honor the old gift cards. That's what I'm like, really sketchy about gift cards and stuff, because like, what if the company goes defunct? Like all of a sudden, like, I know that in Canada we have and I think they have in America too, Sears, but I don't know if Sears in America is still around. I know in Canada we liquidated our Sears in town, and it was like the only major department store in town, because like we still have the Walmart, so unless you count Walmart as a department store, but I don't really think you do, because it's kind of like a different thing on its own. We also in Canada used to have, so a bit of a backstory. In Canada we have the Hudson's Bay Company, which was established in 16 it was established in the 17th century, so it's quite old, and it used to be a fur trapping company. Started by Britain, so it used to have like its own flag and all that crap. It's almost like the East India Empire Company. No, that's not what it was called. Oh crap, I missed my turn. East India Company, I think it was just called the East India Company. I'm getting my companies confused with Skyrim, because in Skyrim there's the East Empire Company, but no, in real life there's a company called the East India Company. Anyway, there's a company in India. Anyway, so in Canada we have the Hudson's Bay Company, and eventually it expanded to what we have, what we know as basically 3 different stores. We have the Bay, which is basically your sort of higher end department store, which is mostly clothes, but they do sell like appliances and furniture and like other stuff, and they actually still sell canoes, like actual genuine wooden canoes, and they were for like I think $5,000, but it was like a genuine like canoe that you could buy in the store, and I'm like, this is so awesome. You could buy like oars and like little different things. They made like blankets and like other stuff, so it's pretty high end. Then you have Home Outfitters, I think it's called, and it's basically your interior decorating store. So like if you wanted to buy like pillow sets, if you wanted to buy like curtains, if you wanted to buy like tabletops, indoor and outdoor kitchen things, it's sort of like your poor man's IKEA, but like without all the building. And then the third company that was part of like the trio was called Zellers, and that was basically your Walmart equivalent of the Bay, but it had like this total Canadian brand, and it had like a kid's mascot, and they actually had restaurants in the store called this I can't remember if it's called the Zed, or like we call it the Zeller's Diner, and it was literally like a 1950s inspired diner. So like the diner was decked out in like 50s memorabilia, like checkered floors. Like honestly, it was like the coolest thing ever. They made like delicious burgers, and they have like, they call it the Z sauce, or Americans would call it the Z sauce, but we call it the Z sauce. And it was like just basically your ketchup, mayo, and garlic combination. Like it was so good. They had the ratios just right. It was really good. Unfortunately, Zellers closed. Oh god, it's closed like I want to say 6 years ago, maybe a little bit. No, it would have, yeah, about 6 or 7 years ago. Zellers closed, and so that was between Sears and like what we call Zellers. Those were the 2 major department stores that we had in town, and both of them are now closed. So the only real department store that we have is Walmart, and I don't know if you can call Walmart a department store. But yeah, we have no department stores in town. I think like the closest one we'd have to go to is either Ottawa or Montreal. Because I don't even think unless if there's one near like in a neighboring town, but like the neighboring town I'm talking about like a 45-minute drive from where I live is like the nearest major town. Like we have a bunch of rural areas, but like none of them have like department stores. Like they're all farming communities. The biggest thing they have there is a church and a legion. So there's not a lot when it comes to these places. But yeah, I thought it was super sad there was like no department stores. I mean, like we also sit right on the US border on the St. Lawrence River, so like we have a bridge that we can literally cross into upstate New York, and I don't even think in their shopping center they have a department store, because a lot of their stuff is closed. Like, they probably have, like, I don't even know what they have there anymore. Like, I haven't been so long. Like, they have a Dollar Tree, I think. They have Office Max, I think. They have... Is it called Ollie's? I don't remember if that's what they have there. I mean, I know that America has Ollie's, but I don't know if it's in upstate New York where I live, or it's like another name for it or something. I think it's Ollie's. They have a grocery store of some kind, but I don't know what it's called. Shows how much knowledge I have about the communities around me. I don't go to the States that often. I should, though. I have a passport now. I've had a passport since April, so I could go, but I don't have the vehicle, or probably the stamina, I can't even say the word, to, like, survive going down to America. Because, like, especially with my medical condition, I can't really, like, stand and walk for long periods of time. I mean, I can do, like, sort of decent amounts of walking, but, like, I don't know if I can handle a full day of shopping. Like, I'd probably get exhausted by the time I'm, like, finished with the first or second store. So I don't know how exactly that would go, but I could enjoy going through different American stores and just, like, seeing what they have to offer, although the exchange rate is really terrible for Canadians, so I'm not exactly thrilled with how the exchange rates turned out, just because it's so, like, out of favor for us. Like, for Americans, you guys end up getting, like, I think it was $1.20 for every Canadian dollar, and for every American dollar you exchange, you get, like, $1.20 Canadian, and we get, like, 80 cents on the dollar, which is really terrible for us, because, like, if I give $100, I only get 80 American, versus if Americans give 100, you get, like, 120. It's like, that is not fair. I figure, like, countries like Canada and the United States should have, like, equal exchange rates for the currency. Like, the Canadian dollar and the American dollar should be at par at all times. Like, it should be pegged, because, like, why on earth should the currency fluctuate to a point where, like, it's mutually unbeneficial for tourism? Because, like, at one point the Canadian dollar got, like, $1.10 almost on the American dollar, so the situation was reversed at one point. And I mean, it was great for us Canadians, because, like, we can go down south and get a lot more bang for our buck, but for Americans it was like, well, they lose money, you know? And it sucks, especially for international companies. Like, there's a few companies in town that actually have American offices, because we are so close to the American border, that their Canadian businesses suffer slightly because of the exchange rate, but then the American businesses start thriving because people want to do business in America because they can get it cheaper. Well, it depends on what the exchange rate is like. If the exchange rate is great for Canadians, then the American offices do fairly good business. If the exchange rate's really bad for Canadians, then the Canadian businesses go really good, because they just move their business across the border, because they end up getting more bang for their buck. So, like, let's say I pay someone, like, my budget's $100 Canadian. I can either spend, 100 Canadian on something in Canada, or I can go to America and spend $80 and have an $80 budget and have it done in America. So in that sense, people go to Canada, because, like, if you had $100 US and you wanted the job done, you can either pay 100 in US or 120. That gives you an extra $20 to spend on a project, and that's major. And same thing for the situations reverse. If the American dollar is really great for Canada, then we just do our business down south, and it goes, it fluctuates back and forth depending on what the market looks like, and it's not right. I think I truly, honestly feel that the American dollar and the Canadian dollar should be pegged at $1 per $1, because, like, I mean, like, there's other currencies that do that too, where they have specifically set rates for the American dollar. I think some examples are, like, the Cuban peso or the Cuban touristic peso. I can't remember if that fluctuates or not, but I can't remember specific examples, but, like, there are some currencies that are pegged to certain dollars that don't change, and the Canadian dollar is not like that. We fluctuate wildly sometimes, and it's not right, because, especially Canadians, our #1 tourism destination, I think, is the US. I think second is like either the continent of Europe or the UK. I think it's like our third place, but our second place. But our first place is America. Why? Because it's right there. And like we love going down south and stuff. So like, for tourism wise, it sucks. For business, for Americans, it's great because they can just choose where they want to do business. We don't really have much of a choice. And I mean, like, there are some other places that have like, that have paid currencies. I'm still not fully awake, even though it's like 11 o'clock. I ended up waking up at like 9:30 this morning because I went to bed at like 1 because I was watching another stream. And I mean, like, for traveling purposes, having a pegged currency is great for tourism because at least they have knowledge of like how much a currency is worth. Because like I can estimate what a currency is worth based on like based on my like historical knowledge. So like for the longest time, 2 Canadian dollars was worth 1 British pound. It was usually like a 2-to-1 ratio, but it's changed because of Brexit. And at one point it was like $1.80 for a pound, and I think it went down to like $1.30 for a pound, so it almost was half its value at one point. So when I went to the UK, I couldn't do the 2-to-1 ratio because it wasn't exactly right. It was more like $1.80 per one. So like that sort of fluctuation just like it makes it a lot more complicated for tourists to sort of like recalculate the value of their goods in their head, because like when I had to come back to Canada, I had to declare how much I was bringing back in terms of like souvenirs and like food items, and so I'm trying to like sit there with a calculator trying to figure out how much I spent for all my things, because I don't think like some places didn't even give me a receipt, so I'm just like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this. Like I vaguely remember how much I paid for things because I used cash. I didn't use my debit or my credit card at all in Europe because like I didn't want to pay like those $1.50 transaction fees because that was killer. So I used cash for everything. And when I ran out of cash, I literally went to an ATM and just took out money directly from the ATM, so I didn't have to worry about like bringing in too much cash, because I didn't want to bring in like a lot of physical cash with me just in case I like get mugged or something. Thankfully I didn't, but like I wanted to be on the safe side. And what's nice is that there's a bank called Tangerine in Canada. It used to be called I think it was ING Direct, I think it used to be called, and then they renamed themselves to Tangerine, I think. And they offer no fee banking internationally as well. So like I could take my it's literally just like an orange debit card, and I would put money on it, and I would literally just put it into an ATM like any other card, and it would recognize it because it's part of a global ATM alliance, so I don't actually pay ATM fees abroad with specific banks. So like I had to use the BNP Paribas bank in Italy and France, and I could use the Deutsche Bank ATMs in Spain and Portugal, and Barclays in the United Kingdom. And basically I would go to those ATMs and I wouldn't pay any transaction fees or ATM fees, and normally those rack up like $3 a piece or more, sometimes $5 a piece. So like I ended up saving like 20 or 30 bucks in banking fees just by using this card. And I mean, like 20 or 30 is not a lot, but especially when you're touring in Europe, like that could make a bit of a difference, especially if you're in like an emergency situation that I was in. Because when I was in France, the rail company actually striked, and so I was stranded in France for a time. Then I booked an emergency bus that I had to use my money for, and like suffice to say, I obviously made it through, but like it was the most stressful time of my life. And I made it into Barcelona at like 3 in the morning. But like if I didn't have access to that electronic funds, I literally would have been stranded in France. My whole trip would have been ruined had I not had that account. Especially with like the foreign transaction fees and stuff, there's like no saving grace when it comes to just having like just cash, because like sometimes it's good to have just cash, but like you need that emergency money sometimes, especially if you're like stranded somewhere and you need to like buy a ticket online, especially in this day and age. But yeah, I used the Tangerine card and I didn't pay a thing. The only thing I paid was the exchange rate, which I would have done anyway with my Canadian money. So like I literally didn't spend any extra money, and I saved like so much, because you get charged Canadian side and you get charged Europe side. So like you have to pay like, I think it's $1.50 for an ATM fee, plus whatever the bank's in Europe's fee is. So like if it's like let's say another $1.50, so it's $3, plus a foreign exchange rate fee on top of the foreign exchange rate itself. Like there's so much problems with it, and so that's why I'm so glad I use the orange card. So like if anyone's traveling in Canada and you're going abroad, get the Tangerine card because it's free. And like literally I have not paid any fees at all for Tangerine, and it saves you so much money on global ATM fees. I don't know about America though. If you're traveling within America, there's a different set of rules, but like if you're traveling in Europe, there's like literally a list of banks that you can use their ATMs for, and there's no fees, and it genuinely works. Like I did not pay, like I looked in my my bank statements and I did not pay a single bank fee while I was in Europe, and it was amazing. Like I saved so much, you have no idea. And yeah, I was able to take out money in Europe without any issues. And I mean, like, it was so funny because at one point I wanted to take out 200 euros at once, so I'd be set for like a while, and all it gave me was 50s. And it's like in Canada we don't normally use the $50 and the $100 bills in stores. Like a lot of them just don't accept it, just because there's such high denominations, and we don't like a lot of people tend to counterfeit the 50s and the 100s, and so stores just don't trust people when it comes to like higher denominational bills. It's like a lot of places will just not accept 50s or 100s, which really sucks. And I mean, like, then we start getting to the issue of, well, do we bother keeping the 50 because the 50 to me, or the 50 and the 100 sounds like a waste of money. Because why are you making a bill that people aren't going to use in stores? You know, the point of money is to like facilitate a transaction of goods and services, and yet people are not allowed to even use the $50 or the $100 bill because people are counterfeiting it. So like, what's the point? I mean, like, I get for like 50s and 100s, if there's like a very large transaction, like if you're talking about like a couple $1,000s, you're not going to want to pay that in 20s. That I get. But like for the common person who's shopping like for maybe a couple $100, like I guess using a couple hundreds would be normal, but like for smaller transactions, like I don't know, I find it really annoying. I mean, I don't think I've ever received a $50 bill in change, because I don't think I've ever actually spent like a $100 bill in a store, because to me that just makes no sense. I mean, some people do, I guess, but like I don't. And I mean, our money in Canada is plastic. It's actually polymer, and so it's a lot harder to duplicate than paper money, because like you can't just photocopy it and like use a specific paper. Like you have to use like plastic, and like there's a specific way to make the money, and there's like a bunch of security features and stuff. And like now don't get me wrong, it is possible to duplicate it, and people have done poor attempts, or even some like decent attempts at counterfeiting, where basically people like cut up the like the $5 bill and would like paste it into the 100 or something to make it look like it's genuine money. So like we have what we call the Canadian Broadcasting Company, so the CBC, and they do what they call marketplace, which is essentially like investigative journalism. And I can't remember if it was a marketplace or if it was like some other news segment that they did where they explored counterfeiting money. And so they actually showed off examples of people who tried to counterfeit Canadian currency, and it was like the dumbest thing ever, where someone tried to use like sparkly gift wrapping paper to make it look like it's shiny, and like they tried to like cut off parts of the 5 and paste it onto 100 or something, and it's like the dumbest things. And like if you don't look at them, I crashed majorly into that. Ow. How is my truck not dead for that? I literally crashed head on into that, and I only got 6% damage. How is that possible? Where am I? I literally can't say it. Okay, I'm just gonna call service because I can't bother to deal with this. So yeah, they did like investigative journalism at one point, and it was basically just like showing off how people like try to counterfeit Canadian money, and how like we're still working on like making sure that like we can fight counterfeiting in Canada. And I mean, like, we've released a new $10 bill. Oh, excuse me, I'm like yawning all morning. We've made a new $10 bill, which features Viola Desmond. It's like the first Canadian black woman to be on our money. And she was, I know, like, some people are saying, don't compare her to Rosa Parks, because she's not Rosa Parks. But I mean, like, in a sense, she almost is. Just because, like, she has done something similar. Like in Rosa Parks, she refused to stand up or to give up her seat in a whites-only section of a bus. In our case, Viola Desmond refused to give up her seat in a whites-only section of a theater. Like, to me, that is I don't think it's unreasonable to draw the same conclusion from Viola Desmond and Rosa Parks, because they did sort of similar acts of civil disobedience. I mean, like, at the time, they argued that, oh, she didn't pay the 1 cent tax, and so she was actually jailed. I can't remember if Rosa Parks was jailed, but I know that Viola Desmond was jailed because she didn't pay the 1 cent tax. Like, it's literally just a penny. That apparently she didn't pay for sitting in the whites-only section of the theater, and, like, and it's funny because she actually got convicted in court and went to jail, but then she died. I think it was like, actually I don't even remember when she died, but she died. And then she got, like, basically the court went to Nova Scotia. Like, she was basically from Nova Scotia, which is like the very eastern part of the country. And she got pardoned, and, like, I guess the charges were removed from her or something. She was like I don't know how you call it, like, posthumously or post-honorably, like, pardoned or something. Like, she basically got pardoned after she died, but her sister is still alive. Viola Desmond's sister is actually still alive, so she actually got a chance to see the bill in person. And it's like, it's a very gorgeous portrait. Like, I know that in America they tried to put Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill, and people were saying that she's ugly, and I'm not gonna lie. But I mean, like, it doesn't matter what someone looks like, it's their accomplishments that matter. But still, like, that was a really not a very attractive looking portrait. So, like, I get why people are saying that. I don't like that people are saying that. I think it's wrong. I'm not gonna make the same mistake. But like, Harriet Tubman's portrait's not the most attractive. And people are saying, oh, you know, people are not gonna like what they see on their money, and it's like, it's the person's accomplishment that matters, and I don't know. But, like, Viola Desmond's portrait is very beautiful. Like, she's a very pretty woman. I don't know if that's misogynistic to say or not. If it is, I'm sorry, but it's true. And I mean, I don't care what she looks like, to be honest. Like, she could be, I would love to see Harriet Tubman on the American money. Honestly, I would. Especially compared to Andrew Jackson, who's, like, a terrible president. I don't get why Americans are so obsessed with their presidents. Like, a lot of them did terrible things. You know, I mean, there are some great presidents, obviously. Like, there's George Washington, even though he was a slave owner, but he gave up the slaves when he died, so I guess that's okay. You know, FDR got us through World War II, but, like, or got you guys through World War II, he didn't get us through World War II. That we had the king for, both Prime Minister King and the King George VI. I mean, like, Reagan was a pretty decent president, but he had some shady stuff. Like, every president has had shady stuff in history. Like, there's some sort of, like, weird. I think the only exception I can really think of is really Obama, because, like, what scandal did Obama have before, other than, like, the whole birther issue, which is not even something that he did, it was something that Donald Trump did. I don't know, they're probably, like, decent presidents, like, okay, not, I was gonna say, like, LBJ, but he did that whole, like, schlong thing, so I don't think so. Nixon, no. Ford was basically just a vice president who was given the job after Nixon resigned. Jimmy Carter, I guess, was pretty good because he owned his own business, and then he actually did the proper thing and, like, put it in, like, a closure. But I can't remember if Jimmy Carter's only a one-term president, though, I think. So I don't know why he didn't get re-elected. I'm terrible with American history, so I don't know if any president's really that great. That's, like, a spotless record. Like, the only one I can think of on the top of my head is Obama. But then you could argue, like, oh, he did the whole, you know, Benghazi situation and the whole, like, ISIS thing, and he's whatever, and I'm like, eh. But I mean, like, to be fair, our Canadian prime ministers are not that great either. We had some pretty terrible prime ministers as well. I mean, we had like Brian Mulroney that almost destroyed the country based on the constitutional crisis. He resigned. We had like our first female prime minister that didn't even get elected, so we still have not elected a female prime minister yet. We've had one appointed, and she lasted for like a few months before she lost. She almost destroyed the entire party, but that was because of Brian Mulroney. So like, I guess you can't blame her, but like, then we had like Jean Chrétien, which was pretty decent, but a lot of people made fun of his lisp because he had like some sort of paralysis on his face. Paul Martin was one you could easily forget. Stephen Harper was just, it was great at first, but then he just went corrupt and went like terrible by the end. And then like Justin Trudeau's a pretty boy, and he's somewhat charismatic, but like he can do some pretty stupid things. Not like stupid on the level of Trump, but like still pretty stupid. And I know there's like a pretty decently sized movement to like want to remove the Liberal Party. It's sad because like in Canada we have like free healthcare and free education and all that stuff, and like some people don't want, like a lot of people enjoy that, but like they're all like, oh, we don't like paying taxes. I never understood why people are against taxes. I understand not wanting to pay large amounts of taxes, especially when you're not making a lot of money, but like how do you think services are paid for? Like, how do you think the roads are getting paved, or like, you know, all these things are getting done? They're getting done by taxpayer money. Like, granted, I don't like wasting taxpayers' money. Like, I don't believe in like wasting money on like a senator's vacation. You know, we've had that problem in Canada where like we've had certain members of parliament spend like $47 on a glass of orange juice, and it doesn't make any sense because like who charges $47 for a glass of orange juice? And like we've had like scandals like that. Oh yeah, we've had plenty of those. I was trying to think. Senator Mike Duffy, who actually used to be a newscaster turned senator, and he had like a couple $100,000 in like expenses that made no sense. And he's supposed to be like a senator from Prince Edward Island, so he represents PEI. But yet he never spent time there or something. Like, I don't know exactly what the story was, but I remember like that was a big huge thing because we spent like, oh god, well, it was like a couple $1 million to investigate someone who only had like $100,000 in like taxpayer money, so that was another waste. We're really bad for spending, like, honestly. We have like so many problems with our expense reporting stuff. Like, it's absolute nonsense. Yeah, it's I have no idea. It's super bizarre. I guess that's sort of the biggest thing when it comes to like it being a scandal, like if you can call it a scandal. Yeah, because I mean, like, we don't have the only Donald Trump character we've ever had in Canada that I know of is Rob Ford, and he died like, I'm gonna say a few years ago, and he was like the city councillor for Toronto, where basically he was more than city councillor, he was mayor at one point, and he had that whole scandal of like doing crack cocaine and like doing sexual things with his wife and like declaring it to the media, and I'm just like, and this guy had like drinking issues or something, and like there's this whole blah, like it was basically the Donald Trump of Canada, where basically he would just make a fool of himself at every given opportunity, and he was like really not that intelligent. And now his brother is Premier of Ontario, and he's also very Trump-like. They call it Ford Nation because their last name is Ford, and it's like the worst thing ever. And I'm like genuinely scared because I tend to support the Liberal Party or the left parties simply because as a student I want tuition fees to be like controlled. Like, I don't want like major tuition fee problems. That's why I tend to vote Liberal at this point. And I may like change my political views once I'm like out of school and like into the workforce. Like, I may turn conservative or I may stay Liberal. Like, my political points will probably change once my education stuff's done and out of the way. And now we have a conservative government in Ontario, and I mean, like, some people say it's a good thing, and I mean, I personally wasn't a fan of the previous premier in Ontario because it was Kathleen Wynne, and she was a Liberal, and I liked what she did with the student loan programs. That was it. That was the only reason why I liked her. All of her other stuff was just like nonsense, you know, with like with hydro rates and with like other different with other different policies. You know, I wasn't a fan of the way she conducted herself, and so I was like, nah. But at the same time, it's like I only wanted to vote for her because I enjoyed the benefits that she introduced like a year before she left. And I'm sincerely praying that the government does not change their policies on the education system at this point in terms of student loans, because I would like to have the current system in place. I mean, if I had my way, I would just say to hell with student loans. You know, tuition, I know like universities cost money, but like it's ridiculous to think that putting students $50,000 in debt before they complete their education is worth that amount of money. Like, it's ridiculous how much universities charge, and like what you get out of it, it's ridiculous. And I mean, I get there are associated costs and stuff, but like, come on, you know. I would, if I'm a tax-paying person, you know, once I get a job, like once I'm actually like in a career in something and I'm like paying taxes, like proper taxes, I would love for my taxes to go to a kid who wants to go to university but can't afford it. I would love for that to happen, because I think that everyone should be given the opportunity to either go to university, go to college, because I know in America you people call universities colleges, and that's not right. I don't like that. But in America's case, it'd be community colleges, I guess. Or allow kids to take up a trade. You know, pay for apprenticeship programs. You know, if you want to become a carpenter or a plumber or an electrician, I would gladly let my tax-paying dollars go to that. I would love for my tax money to go to someone else's education. And you know, you hear the argument, oh, I don't want to pay for someone else's education. It's like, you know what? Education helps the entire country, so you shush. Okay? Because I want my tax money to go to education. I want my tax-paying money to go to healthcare, to roads, to a little bit to the train system, a little bit to the airport industry, because like flying needs to be a lot cheaper. And like the rest of it can go to like whatever other systems that they need to like do. But like I want my tax money to go to a kid who wants to go to school. It actually does college. Yeah, I mean, there are some college grants, but I'm talking about like complete subsidized education like they do in Germany and Norway, where the student does not pay, and the only thing they pay for is living costs, so like the cost of like rent and like stuff like that. I'm talking about like my tax money going to complete free tuition. And you know, they say that on paper, I'm still ending up having to pay close to $1,000 a year. I mean, like, granted, $1,000 is not a lot, but I still have to take out loans and stuff to like for my living arrangements, because I don't work while I study, because I can't do both. You know, there are people that can, I can't, because I need to dedicate my focus to like that specific thing. But like when I was studying my first degree, my tuition rate was like $7,000 a year. And it's like, who on earth has that amount of money to pay per year for an education that's not even guaranteed, because you don't even know what the professors are like, you don't know what the quality of education is like. I mean, you can get a guess, and you have the propaganda, but like that's not the same as compared to like a regular, like actually being in university. I'm talking about how they do in Germany and how they do in Norway and Denmark or whatever European countries do that, where they actually have zero tuition universities and they only pay for like student fees and living arrangements. You know, I think that's the way it should be. And like textbooks need to be subsidized as well, because there are some, like even history textbooks, you know, history textbooks are usually on the cheaper end. They're normally like about $50 or $60, but there are some science textbooks that are $400. Like if a student wants to study to become a doctor, they have to shell out like thousands just in books that they're probably never going to use again, because they're going to be outdated by the time next year hits around, because they always update those medical textbooks. Like, as a student, I think that's ridiculous. You know, like, why should I be having to put myself $50,000 in debt just so that I can get a piece of paper that says I'm trained to do something? You know, and for, especially for like doctor student stuff, who has to Oh, FF, I didn't even realize that was... I'm looking at who actually typed that, and I didn't even realize who it was. Hey, FF, it's good to see you on the stream this morning. But yeah, like, I think it's sort of ridiculous for, like, medical students to, like, having to pay all these ridiculous amounts of fees to just study and become a doctor, who in Canada is desperately needed. We have a doctor shortage in Canada. Like, it's... And I don't know what the situation is like now, but, like, a few years ago, we were desperate. Yeah, I felt like, because your profile picture looks similar to Little Dave's, so I just looked at the profile picture and just assumed it was the same one. But yeah, like, it's completely ridiculous. Like, we have a shortage of doctors in this country, like, especially up north. In northern Canada, there are huge incentives to becoming a northern doctor. I actually have a friend of mine who's studying to become a doctor up north. Like, she did a master's degree up in Thunder Bay, and now she's going to medical school in Hamilton to actually get her proper doctor's license. And there are huge incentives to working up north because there aren't a lot of resources, and they need to bring doctors up north. And yet they're expecting medical students to have, like, these thousands and thousands of dollars in debt, along with the cost of living. Like, it's bad enough that if you're living in an expensive place like Toronto, you have to pay their expensive renting prices. And they're saying, oh, you can just, like, get a job on the side. Like, that's not going to do anything. You know, that'll barely put food on the table, and that's why we take out these ridiculous loans. Because to me, like, it's like a trapped system. And I mean, in America, I guess it's worse in some places. And another thing that Canada does is that they charge interest on the loans, like a bank does. Like, I'm sorry, the government's making money off of my debt? Like, to me, that's unacceptable, because I am training myself to become an upstanding citizen of this country. You know, I'm not taking out student loans to go out partying. Granted, some people do. I'm not. You know, I'm using it to actually, like, better myself and to become a contributing member to society. And yet the government makes money off of the interest off my loans? Like, that's ridiculous. Like, why should they be making money? Like, if I take out like a $40,000 loan, I'm going to end up paying like $80,000 or something, or $70,000, because of the interest rates that are on top of that. You know, and I'm going to end up spending like 10 or 20 years of my life paying that off. And that just doesn't look good on a credit score. Like, I can't even get my own cell phone right now because I have student loans. I actually have to, like, rely on a family member to, like, vouch for me. Like, I pay my cell phone bill on time, don't get me wrong, but, like, it's ridiculous, you know, that I have, like, so much debt already in my life, and I've just started. You know, like, I'm still in school, I'm still bettering myself, like, I'm still going through all this, and it's just like, I don't understand. Like, why is the government making money off of my debt? Like, that's so scummy, you know. And like, I don't know what it's like in America. Here I am battling the sniffles too. Like, I don't understand the system in America a lot, because like I'm obviously not American, and I don't like pay attention to a lot of things, but like I hear that, like, oh shit, sorry. Just drive right through. I think I just did not pay that toll. Is the car still in front? Oh, the car was still in front of me. Sorry, Mr. Car. I think I just broke the law, but that's okay. I don't get charged anything, so that's fine. Let's see the damage real quick. Oh, oof. That's not gonna look good. Before I was so rudely interrupted by my non-braking vehicle, like, I don't know exactly how the American system works, but like, it's one of the most confusing things that I've tried to comprehend. And I mean, like, I don't know what the tuition rates are like in America, but they seem to be pretty high to me. And like, the fact that a student is going to be in such debt after they leave school because they're trying to better themselves, I think is not right, you know? So I would like to see my tax money go to like some kid's future, you know? I don't want to pay for a senator's $47 glass of orange juice. I want to pay for some kid's dream of becoming an electrician, you know? I think apprenticeships are wonderful things, and they always get a bad rep, because like the way my high school operated was basically there were 3 levels of education that you could do. You could do the academic level of education, which is basically your university bound courses. You could take the applied level of education, which is your college or your community college aspect of training, and then there was workplace level of education, which is basically your low or your slow classes. And I mean, like, I feel like apprenticeships are always given a bad rep. It's like, oh, only stupid people do apprenticeships. It's like, no, you need to be like a genius sometimes when it comes to like carpentry and like electrician work and like plumbing, because you need to know science, you need to know math, you need to know like measurements and like all of these different things. And if you're not precise, like, you will not do the job right. So like, I always encourage people, like, hey, if you feel like university and college is not for you, take up an apprenticeship. Honestly, you can learn so much doing like auto mechanics. How many people need to know how to fix a car? There are so many people that drive cars in this country, in the world. You know, if you're a car mechanic, you can easily get a job, you know, because there are so many places that could be that could use, oh dear, I need to check something on my map really quickly, that could use a car mechanic. And my game is frozen. There we go. Oh, thank God, there's a gas station right there. Cool. You know, there are so many people that could use, you know, skills as an electrician and a plumber. You can earn a lot of good money that way. And I mean, like, science and math is not my thing, so I won't be getting an apprenticeship, but like, people should. If you don't feel like academics is for you, like, I feel like academics is for me because I love doing research, I love writing papers, so like, that's my thing. But like, other people, you know, there is no shame in taking a trade. Your comment's very large, I'm gonna crash, so I'm gonna pull into a gas station, then I will read your comment properly, FF. Because I can't drive and read your comment at the same time. I need to pull into a gas station. But yeah, I'll reserve my comment until I read your comment, then I'll respond. I need to get to a gas station first because my truck is running low on fuel. I can't even read my my dashboard because my texture quality is so low. I don't even know if that's like the proper setting. I have to go into the settings and fiddle with that after the stream, just so at least I can read my gauges. There's a gas station. Pull. There we go. Alright. Thank God I don't have to pay for gas. There we go. I don't mean anything bad or anything, but the main problem is that people aren't even members over here and get free school units and get everything else for even their citizens. Oh, seriously? I don't know where you're exactly from, FF, but I could see that as a main issue, and I think I agree with that statement. I feel like citizens should get first dibs on schooling opportunities. Gas price high over here. I mean, €1.54. That's like, I think $2 a liter in Canadian dollars, something like that. And actually, the real gas price is like $1 something. Like, it's really cheap, you know, which is pretty good. But I mean, like, thankfully, I don't pay the actual gas prices. But yeah, I agree that there is a big problem with international students. I mean, it's really funny. I think in Germany, they're allowing Canadian students to get free tuition. And I mean, like, that's great for us, but like, what about the German students who may not get that, or like our other countries? And actually, it's funny, in Canada, it's actually the opposite, or at least where I am, it's opposite. International students pay way more in tuition fees. Like, I remember when my tuition fees were $7,000, and international students was almost $12,000. Like, they pay so much more in transaction fees and like different fees and stuff, just because they're not from the country. So I don't know what it is where you're from, but in Canada, at least where I am, oh, come on, pull through. International students actually pay a lot more to study here. But I know in certain countries, like, they allow like free tuitions or like equal tuition payments in for Canadians. So like, for example, when I went to the University of Ottawa, there were programs, there were exchange programs where I could study in like Scotland
or in Germany or wherever in Europe, and I would only pay Ottawa tuition fees. Like I wouldn't pay German tuition fees or Scottish tuition fees. I would only pay like the student fees that were there. And it's amazing how I didn't take the opportunity because I didn't want to necessarily go abroad for half a semester, especially for studying. I contemplated it, but never bothered. But like I would pay Ottawa U tuition fees, so in that sense it's sort of free. They can get it free. Yeah, we have like some sort of, I think you have to have like a language proficiency in order to be like capable of, studying in an abroad country. Excuse me, keep on hiccuping. And it's so bizarre because like I don't know, and I don't know if that money actually goes to that university or if they're just like keeping it for themselves, like in Canada's case, like keeping it in the Canadian university system. Like I don't really know. There's a big protest going on overall. Oh really? I heard about there's protests in France, but I thought that was over the price of like I thought that was over the protest over like the carbon tax. I know people aren't a fan of carbon tax. I believe in a carbon tax for companies, not for people. Like I don't think people should be paying tax on gas because like we don't pollute that much compared to like companies. So like, but then again, if you put on the carbon tax for companies, then the price of goods goes up, and it's like, well, I'd rather save money on fuel because fuel can get really expensive. Where's my truck anyway? Yeah, I don't know exactly what the protests are all about, but it's it's actually a little bit scary to be honest. I'm still in Poland. I didn't know that. Where do I still need to go? I need to go to 2 different places before I can actually like play the game normally. Yep, I've done that. Okay, so that's all interconnected, yes. That's all interconnected. That's all interconnected. So the only one I have to go left is Napoli. I wonder if there's like from Nice to Napoli. I mean, like, yeah, that's just really scary. You know, like all these protests, especially in like in Paris. I saw the photos, and I'm like, oh shit, like stuff's about to go down. I could do Rome. Yeah, I'll do Rome. Yeah, I'll travel to Rome. Why not? I got to. Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate the subscription. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate you stopping by in the stream and hope you have a wonderful day. Hopefully I'll see you, I don't know if Nerdito is going to be streaming or not tonight, but if he is, I'll see you there, and if not, then have yourself a wonderful weekend. Now I've got to set up the map for my next... Oh, I've already discovered... Yeah, I've already been to Genoa, I've already been to... Yeah, I've already been to Livorno, so that's fine. Oh wow, so it's actually just a direct drive to Rome. And I can just do that, do that. There we go. I'm going back to Rome. I wonder what virtual Rome is like in this country, in this game. Because I mean, like, I've been to the real one, so like, at least I have something to compare it to. Yeah, no, I definitely would recommend, if you have the opportunity, go to Europe. If you're in Europe, go see the rest of the continent. It was such an amazing experience for me doing like 9 countries in 3 weeks. Now granted, I felt rushed at some points, but like it was still pretty great, and I would do it again. Okay, this bar needs to go up. Why is this bar not going up? Move! Seriously, why can't I move? Am I not in the right... Hold on, I need to... I'm trying to drive to a non-existing place, that's why. Because I have to go out that way. See? She shows how much I pay attention. But like, yeah. It sucks though that like traveling can be so expensive, but especially in Canada. This is another... We have a lot of problems in this country. Like, we might be all like the friendly white neighbors to the north that have like no problems, are all like hunky-dory. No, there are some problems in this country. Traveling is one of them. It costs, literally, it's less to travel to Europe in certain places, or to Asia in certain places in Canada, than it is to travel domestically. So I know that going from like Toronto to Calgary on a decent economic flight would probably cost you around like $800 or something like that. I am cutting a red light. Beep beep. Beep beep. It costs around $800, unless if like some people fly on a cheaper airline or flying from a cheaper airport or something. But it costs like probably $1,000 across this country, probably a bit more. I literally flew from Montreal to London to Rome, and then London to New York City to Montreal. And I think the flight ended up costing, was it $1,100 or $1,200? Like, it was not that much. And like, I could fly return trip from Europe, from North America to Europe, for the same price that I could fly to the other side of Canada. Like, that doesn't seem right. Like, that's not right at all. Like, I could easily like go to a different continent, and like if you're in Vancouver, I guess you could fly from like Vancouver to like Japan for like the same price that you could fly from like Vancouver to Toronto. Like, it's ridiculous how much airfare costs in this country. I don't know why. Maybe like fuel prices have to do with it, or like there's like regulatory agencies that cost or something. I don't know, but like, it's ridiculous how much air travel costs in this country. Like, it's unacceptable, because like I have family that live out on the western provinces. I can't go see them because it costs me like too much, and it's like such a big headache traveling across the country. It's ridiculous. Like, driving across the country would take you like maybe a week or two, depending on how fast you drove, and like depending on how many stops you took. Like, to cross Ontario alone, which is a single province, takes you at least a day or two, because of like the way that the province is shaped, and just like the way that it's just like the way it's like made and stuff, like the way the roads are drawn out, and it's ridiculous. Like, why am I needing to pay these exorbitant amounts of money when like I should be able to travel this country? I can't say for free, because then we're starting to get into the whole debate thing, but like for a reasonable price. Like, I shouldn't be able to go to a different country cheaper than crossing my own, with the exception of America, because like a lot of people live close to America, so like obviously it's a lot cheaper to go to America. But like, I shouldn't be able to go to London for the same price as like traveling, I don't know, I think my flight to London was like $500, I think, 5 or 6. So like $600 would probably get you to like, I don't know, halfway across the country, maybe like a third or something. I don't actually know, I'd have to look it up. But like, I was able to go to Europe, a 3-week trip to Europe with 9 countries. It cost me about $6,000 to $7,000, and like a third of that would have been just airfare if I was to travel across my own country. And like, I couldn't travel through 9 different provinces in 3. I mean, I could, but like that would be through like driving or trains or whatever. But like, it's ridiculous, and just the cost to do so is ludicrous. Can you let me in, please? Thank you. Like, I was able to have like 3-course meals with a glass of wine for like 15 euros, and that's about like 20 Canadian dollars. For 20 bucks, I can get like a single entree and like a bottomless soda. Like, a glass of wine alone costs like $5 or $6. You know, like, it's, and it's even if I get like local wine. You know, like if I get international wine, that's a whole nother story. But like, even local wines, I'm still paying like $6 or $7 or $8 to get a glass of wine. Like, it's ridiculously expensive. I was in Europe, I was able to buy a bottle of wine from San Marino for like 2.5 euros. That's like $4. You can't get a $4 bottle of wine in Canada. You can't. You literally can't. And yet, I mean, like, granted, France and Italy are very big powerhouses in the wine business, and like San Marino is naturally in like the Italian peninsula, but still, it's ridiculous how much of price differences there are between like Europe and Canada. Like, I don't know what the actual like proper cost of living in Europe would be, but I imagine I'd be a lot happier and a lot warmer than living up here. Now, granted, there are some parts of Canada that I don't want to give up. Like, I don't want to give up certain like restaurant amenities in Canada, in North America. You know, like bottomless soft drinks, I'm a sucker for that. I know it's terrible, but I'm a sucker for that. Like free refills, I'm a sucker for that. You know, like free bread, again, it's bad for you, but like I'm a sucker for that. Because like I know in Europe you don't get free refills. In Europe you get one drink only, and it's like per drink. And like you have to pay for the bread, but then you also don't tip as well, unless if you like really think the service is amazing. And yeah, versus in Canada and America, you're expected to tip, and like I feel like restaurants should pay their staff a fair wage so we don't have to tip, because like tip should be an optional thank you, it shouldn't be a requirement. But at the same time, servers deserve to get paid like a decent amount of money. Normally they don't, especially in America. They only make like $2, $3, $4, $5 an hour or something. And like even by minimum wage standards here, it's like totally different. So it's like I get why we tip in this continent. I don't agree with it, but I understand why, and I do. Like if I eat out or something, I always give like a 10% tip or something. Especially for drivers. Like drivers is the worst because like they have to use their own cards or whatever, and it's just like, here's an extra something just to like maintain your car so you can keep delivering stuff, because it's like pretty awesome. It's so funny because I actually took almost this exact route in real life. Actually, where am I on the map? Yeah, I actually trained by this entire, granted it was like literally along the coast, because like there's no Monaco in this game, which I hate. And actually I'm going to pull over just for 2 seconds. I'm just going to pause for 2 seconds. I will be right back. Or here. There we go. I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. Sorry about that, guys. I had to plug in my phone so that I can at least keep an eye on the comments section and make sure that my phone's... There we go. So I had to make sure that my phone was plugged in, otherwise I would not be able to maintain the chat, because I'm using the only computer screen I have is my laptop screen, so what you're seeing is literally the only thing I'm seeing. I had to plug in my phone. Alright, we are back. Once I get everything else set up, we're back on the road. We're still heading to Rome. It's funny because I did the exact opposite route, but I did it a different way. So I took the train, so I had to take the train. I had to follow the train network. I didn't just drive. I trained from Rome to Bologna. I think you can drive in this game. I'll check the map once I'm past this toll road. Then I went from Bologna to Rimini, and Rimini is not in this game. It's like halfway between here and Anacostia. Then I went back on myself, went up to Milan, and then hit Nice. So let me just check really quickly on the world map. So yeah, I started in Rome, and I literally followed this road where my cursor's following. I went up that road, up to Bologna. Then I followed down, and I stopped about here, near Ancona, and then went back up, headed up to Milan, pretty much through that road, headed down past Genoa, and then just followed the coast until Nice. So I could literally just like redo part of my Europe trip through this game. And then same thing here, I did from Toulouse to Bordeaux, and then I basically followed this road up to Paris, got into Paris, and then went past like Lille without actually crossing into Belgium. Like I basically did that, and then went through Calais, but I went through the tunnel, and then went way to London. So yeah, I could actually recreate part of my train journey in this game, and it was actually pretty awesome. I should probably do that one of these days, just as like a fun video idea. But I don't know what recording videos like on this laptop. Man, I've done streaming, and like streaming looks fine. But I don't know what recording should be like. I don't know if you can hear my computer in the background, but my fan's going nuts, just because there's a lot of processing in this thing, and it tends to do that, especially if I'm playing like games like this. I mean, my laptop is 5 years old, so I'm I don't know. I mean, I'm not a big gamer, so I can't really justify getting myself a new machine, because like this laptop works fine. I mean, it works fine for my purposes, and like I can't justify spending like $2,000 on a really nice machine, even though I really want one. I mean, right now I'd want a tablet because I don't have one, and I could really use a tablet, especially for like having a bigger screen for like browsing YouTube and stuff, and like watching streams and stuff. I'd love a tablet, because like my phone's nice, but it's a phone. You know, it's not necessarily the best device to watch YouTube videos on. And plus my phone's really bogged down with like a bunch of nonsense, so I'd like to have a tablet to sort of like divvy up memory between the two. So like I'd probably put like my games on my tablet, and like my like other little applications, but like I would keep like my music on my phone, because like I don't know if I'm going to listen to music on a tablet, because that's a big thing to use to listen to music for. I'd rather keep my music on my phone and listen to music that way. But yeah, I find that shopping for tablets is always a pain in the butt, because like I don't know what all of these different processors mean. Like I don't know what their power equivalencies are, and so like even with my laptop, my laptop has HD 4000 graphics from Intel, but like literally all of the games that are on like Steam or anything always give out the graphics processing things in either NVIDIA or AMD equivalency, so never Intel. So I have to like convert my Intel processing chip to AMD or NVIDIA specs, and even then I still don't understand, because like there's a button, like NVIDIA has all these like numerical differences, and I'm like, I don't know what each of these things mean. They all mean like different things to me. So like what's a NVIDIA 9730X? Like that doesn't mean anything to me. That's just a bunch of numbers with an X at the end. Like it literally means nothing to me. It makes absolutely no sense. So I don't know. It's just one of those things that I don't really understand. I mean, like I can easily just convert it too, because like there are websites that'll literally just say, can this run on my computer? I plug in my specs and it'll say yes or no. Like that's how I found out that Fallout New Vegas actually works on my computer, because I did the specs conversion, and it said yes, and I'm like, great. So I bought myself Fallout New Vegas, and I'm loving the game, because I'm actually getting into a Fallout game, because like I found out about Fallout through a YouTuber, and I watched him play his series, and then I got interested in the game, but then I found out that my computer couldn't run Fallout 4, and I'm like, well, that's disappointing, because I'd love to build my own settlements and do all these sort of crazy stuff, but I couldn't. And so then I found out there were other Fallout, I knew there were other Fallout games, so I didn't bother looking into them until I found Oxhorn's channel, and he does lore videos, including lore from Fallout 3 and New Vegas. And so I watched him, you know, do his lore videos, and it looked sort of interesting, but it was sort of looking oldish. And so I was sort of like, well, I kind of like what Fallout 4 looks like, and so I wanted something like that. But then I left it for a few years, didn't really think about it until recently. I got into watching Nerdito's streams. He's a YouTuber that I found out a few weeks ago now. just literally by random luck. I mean, it was fantastic. And so I watch his streams every time he streams. Like I'm at every single one of his streams for like the past few weeks, and because he does really good stuff. And you know, he's been doing sort of, well, I mean, he recently has been doing Deus Ex, and that's entertaining as well. But he's also done like Fallout and Skyrim playthroughs. I mean, I have Skyrim on my computer as well, but I don't know how smooth it would stream, because it can get very buggy. Not buggy, but the actual gameplay can get very skewed sometimes, depending on how my computer feels. So I don't know if I'd actually stream Skyrim or not, because I don't know how it would affect my computer, or at least how it would affect the stream in terms of its quality. So I'm hesitant to stream that, but I can do Euro Truck Simulator. I can probably do Fallout New Vegas if I wanted to. I don't really have any other game type things. I mean, I could also do like podcasts and stuff. Like I need someone else to podcast with, and I have a few people in mind that were willing to do podcasts. Just have to figure something out in terms of like making a plan and actually like making it happen. Because like I can do some tech stuff, but like I don't know what the quality will be like, especially if I'm like running it on my laptop. Because like I can do live stream on my phone, no problem, but like I don't know if I can connect other people to my stream via my phone, or if I need to, like I can probably do it through my laptop. I just need to figure out how. But yeah, it's in the works. I don't know if it's going to become an actual thing or not, if I'll put it on my channel or if I join their channel. I don't know. I'm not a YouTuber. I only started posting content like last week. You know, I'm not a big, huge YouTuber, but hey, I discovered that streaming can be nice if it's done correctly. So yeah, I'm intrigued by this part of YouTube, and I'm very glad that I think it's 19 other people, or might be 20 at this point, other people care to know about my content. So yeah, I mean, I've had a few people stop by on the stream today, so that's very good. Especially since my last Euro Truck Simulator stream only had like one other person watching the video in the chat, so I like literally just talked to myself for an hour and a half. Unless if like someone played the playback, which is entirely possible. Because I mean, I've done that for other people's streams as well. Oh, can I just... Oh, I can go straight through. Oh, yeah, I remember. I know in this part you can actually just drive right through. Oh, you can't drive right through. Oh. Damn it. I thought there was one, and I can't remember where it was, but you could literally drive just straight through it. What's the damage? Ooh, none on the goods. Great. But now we need to actually stop by a... Oh, and I'm so close to Liverno. Perfect. There's a repair shop. That is fantastic. Because I'm stopping there to get my truck repaired. I thought it was literally just you drove straight through, because there was one toll booth, I don't remember where it is, but you literally just drove straight through, and I was like, yes, there's another one of these, because I don't feel like stopping. And then I saw the bar and I'm like, oh shit. That plan is gone. Yeah, seeing as though I'm the only person actually watching the stream at the moment, I'm probably going to end it once my truck is repaired, because I don't know how long I've been streaming for, but it's been for a while. And I could use a break for a while. So, thank you to everyone that stopped by. Thank you, FF, for stopping by and for subbing. Thank you to Little Dave for stopping by and for commenting. Thank you to Hugo Valadar Frigola, is that how you pronounce your name, for the one comment and for stopping by the live stream. Really appreciate it. So yeah, if you're watching this in the future, please like and consider subscribing to my channel. I like to think I do regular content, but I probably don't. But I do enjoy watching and commenting on people's streams. I'll get gas on my way out, and yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure doing my France journey and then doing a third of my Italian journey. I mean, I still have like plenty to do, and I mean, I still need to actually eventually get to Napoli itself. I can do that from Rome probably, so that won't be that much of a big deal. Are you gonna open up for me? Yeah, you're gonna open up for me. Thank you very much. So yeah, thanks to oh dear, I can't drive. Let's try that again. So yeah, thank you to everyone who stopped by. Thank you for everyone who's watching this in the future. You guys are the best. Let me just repair my truck and then get some gas, and then we'll head off for the night, or for the day. I have no idea if I'll be streaming tonight with a face cam or not. I may. Depending on if anything else is going on. Let's get some gas and then call it a day. So I've already traveled like pretty far. Actually, how far have I traveled? Let's just pull up the map really quickly. Come on. Yeah, so I traveled from like Nice all the way to Livorno. So yeah, I did about half the trip. So, but I need to head off, so I will end it in a few minutes. Drag it out as long as possible. No, I'm just gonna get gas and then save and then call it a day. Ooh yeah, I can just cut through straight through here. Perfect. Alright, so thank you very much guys for stopping by. Thank you in the future for watching this again. If you made it this far into the video, truly appreciate it. Always helps. I mean, like, I'm not monetizing any of this, so at the end of the day it doesn't really matter, but like, I still like watching the numbers. I'm a human being. I like people watching my things. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, and I'll catch you at the next stream. Peace.